Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to Massive Nerds Comic of the Week. This week for February 16th, 2011. Now, before we get into the actual Comic of the Week, it was a huge week for releases, and there's a couple I just want to point out as highly recommended. First, we have Marvel's Uncanny X-Force issue 5. X-Force is probably one of my favorite comics that Marvel is putting out right now. Rick Remender's character development on everybody from Archangel to even Deadpool is phenomenal. It's a great fun read with lots of good story going on. Very character driven, but still lots of action. Phenomenal comic. Secondly, from Image Comics, we have Who is Jake Ellis? Issue 2 came out this past week. And who is Jake Ellis? Well, we're still working on that. It follows a super spy, if you will, named John Ellis, who spends a lot of his time having conversations with his imaginary friend Jake. It's completely different from anything I've read in a comic before, and it's an absolute blast. If you're looking for something a little different, definitely check out Who is Jake Ellis. And third, we have from Dynamite Comics, a company I really haven't read much from in the last couple years, Jennifer Blood. Jennifer Blood is the latest creation from the great Garth Ennis of Preacher and Punisher fame, and he kind of gets back to his Punisher roots on this character. Jennifer Blood is a modern, boring housewife supermom by day, hyperviolent vigilante by night. It's a very interesting comic. I'm really looking forward to seeing where this character is going to go. The way Ennis frames the issue through the use of Jennifer's diary instead of a lot of dialogue. I really enjoyed it. It gives a great insight to the character. And again, it's something a little different from what we've been seeing from the major companies lately. However, the actual comic of the week for this week is Avengers Academy number 9 from Christos Gage and Mike McKone. When Marvel relaunched their Avengers line last year, Avengers Academy really stuck me as kind of a B-list book. I wasn't expecting much of it. I figured I'd check out the trade paperbacks in the bookstore every now and then. But honestly, it has been a great read, month after month after month. They've developed a nice cast of new young characters, as well as a great returning cast of Avengers favorites, everybody from Hank Pym and whatever he's calling himself this month, to the always entertaining Quicksilver as their instructors. And the mission statement for the Avengers Academy is that they're training the next generation of superheroes. However, while they are training the students, in actuality, they're not training them to be the next superheroes. Instead, they're really trying to make sure that this isn't the next generation of supervillains. Each of these kids definitely could go bad. And we saw a little bit of that last month in issue 8, where it tied into a previous storyline where supervillain the Hood had attacked Tigra and assaulted her and just embarrassed her, and then posted the video online for everybody to see that this great Avenger could be brought down low just like anybody else. So a couple of the kids go to try and get revenge on the Hood, who now has no powers. So they corner him, they beat him up, they tape it, they put it online. Everybody has a good laugh about it until the teachers find out, especially Tigra, who handled it herself in a more mature and honestly heroic way. So as punishment, the offending students are actually kicked out of the academy. Now, the story goes through some good discussions about really what the purpose of the academy is, and whether or not they should really try to help these kids, honestly, even if they're even worth helping. And by the end of the issue, things are resolved, everybody's back together again. But I really liked the little ending scene with Tigra, kind of showing maybe her true feelings on the situation, something that she didn't show everyone else. Really liked that. But really the meat of this issue, as you can tell from the cover, is the side story between Finesse and one of my favorite Marvel characters, the Taskmaster. Several months ago, it was brought up by Finesse that due to their similarity in power sets, as in they could memorize any fighting style they saw, it's highly likely that the Taskmaster was Finesse's father. She doesn't really know who her true parents are. So, with the whole breakup of the team and everybody going on probation, hiatus, what have you, Finesse uses this opportunity to go track down her possible father. And I loved this little side story. I don't want to say it's a little side story, it takes up half the issue, but I absolutely loved every single panel of this. When Finesse meets the Taskmaster, well, how do they settle their differences? Not by talking it out. They have a great fight. Taskmaster really shows off a lot of the stuff he's learned over the years. However, Finesse has grown quite a bit herself from her time at the Academy, actually learning from the people themselves instead of watching video footage like the Taskmaster was mostly trained with. She ends up getting the upper hand. Taskmaster brings an end to the fight, kind of letting her know that if he was really trying, she wouldn't have stood a chance. It's a great moment between these two characters, especially because it ties into the absolutely fantastic Taskmaster miniseries from a few months ago by Fred Van Lente. The Taskmaster really opens up to Finesse here, even though he's not sure that she's his daughter, and explains that while he can remember all these things, he has no memory of his actual life. She very well could be his daughter, but he honestly cannot remember whether she is or isn't. They share a good moment between the two of them, Taskmaster giving her some interesting advice that is very true to his character and leaves her with probably a few more questions than answers. But it was just a great moment. Honestly, this is probably a bit of a fanboy call here because that Taskmaster miniseries was so good. Seeing this issue of Avengers Academy was kind of a follow-up to that. I couldn't help but pick it for my comic of the week. So that wraps us up for this week. Lots of interesting stuff for you guys to check out. A couple great recommendations at the top of the show, and of course, Avengers Academy. If you haven't been reading it, now might be a great time to pick it up. Really liking what they're doing, not just with the established characters, but with a lot of these new characters that they've set up here. And that's going to wrap us up. I'll see you guys next week. As usual, please check out massivenerd.net for plenty more comics coverage, as well as a lot of other stuff.